I remember the night vividly. The air was thick with the scent of jasmine and expensive perfume, the garden lights twinkling like scattered diamonds. It was Olivia's annual summer party, a lavish affair she hosted to celebrate her latest career triumph. But for me, it was the night everything changed, the night that tested every ounce of restraint I thought I had. The party was for Olivia's promotion, a testament to her relentless ambition. She was a force, my wife, and I admired her for it. But as I watched her glide through the crowd, a dazzling smile plastered on her face, I felt a familiar ache. My gaze drifted to Eleanor, Olivia's sister, who was laughing by the fountain. Eleanor, with her quiet strength and genuine warmth, was the woman I truly loved. Eleanor, of course, was busy, playing the perfect hostess, ensuring every guest felt welcome. She moved with a grace that Olivia, for all her polish, could never quite replicate. I watched her from a distance, a pang of guilt twisting in my gut. I knew I shouldn't be feeling this way, not about my wife's sister. But the heart, as they say, wants what it wants. Something in me hesitated, a premonition of the storm to come. Then it happened. Olivia, her smile gone, her eyes blazing with a fury I'd rarely seen, confronted Eleanor by the ornate garden fountain. Their voices were low, but the tension was palpable. I started to move towards them, a sense of dread washing over me. Before I could reach them, Olivia raised her hand and, with a sharp, sickening crack, she slapped Eleanor across the face. The sound echoed through the sudden silence that fell over the garden. Guests froze, their conversations dying on their lips. Eleanor stumbled back, her hand flying to her cheek, her eyes wide with shock and hurt. Olivia stood rigid, her chest heaving, her gaze fixed on her sister. This wasn't just a domestic dispute. This was bigger than a simple slap. This was the unraveling of years of unspoken resentments, a public declaration of war. Olivia, unfazed by the stunned silence, began to speak, her voice low and venomous. She accused Eleanor of betrayal, of undermining her, of trying to steal her life. Eleanor, tears streaming down her face, tried to defend herself, but Olivia cut her off, her words like daggers. I stood there, paralyzed, watching the woman I loved being verbally flayed by my wife. Sometimes, truths are easier to show than to speak. The night became a blur of hushed whispers and averted gazes. The party, once vibrant, dissolved into an awkward exodus. Olivia, still seething, refused to acknowledge anyone. Eleanor, humiliated, retreated into the house. I felt a profound sense of shame, not just for Olivia's actions, but for my own complicity in the silent drama that had been playing out for years. What this meant for our marriage was terrifyingly clear. After the initial shock, a strange clarity began to settle over me. Olivia's outburst, while horrific, had ripped away the veneer of our perfect life, exposing the rot beneath. It was ugly, painful, but also, in a perverse way, the most honest thing that had happened in years. I walked out into the quiet garden, the cool night air a stark contrast to the burning shame I felt inside. I went back inside, finding Eleanor in the dimly lit living room, huddled on a sofa, silently weeping. I sat beside her, not knowing what to say, but knowing I had to be there. I took her hand, and she squeezed mine, a silent acknowledgement of the unspoken connection between us, a connection that Olivia's violence had inadvertently brought into the harsh light of day. Olivia, meanwhile, had retreated to her study, the door firmly shut. Her anger, I realized, was not just directed at Eleanor, but at the crumbling facade of our marriage, at the unspoken truths we had both ignored. Her dramatic exit, almost amused in its defiance, had forced Eleanor and me to face what we had ignored for too long. We left the party early, the silence in the car deafening. Olivia stared out the window, her profile rigid. I drove, my mind racing, replaying the scene, dissecting every word, every gesture. The anger, the hurt, the betrayal, it was all there, laid bare. But beneath it all, for me, was the quiet realization of what has been missing and what I truly desired. Over the next few days, the fallout was immense. Olivia and I barely spoke, the chasm between us wider than ever. Eleanor, though hurt, seemed to find a new resolve, and I, for the first time in years, felt a sense of purpose, a clarity born from chaos. It was a painful awakening, a brutal truth, but sometimes a slap is exactly what you need. The slap that wakes you up. And that is how I learned that sometimes the most destructive moments can be the most illuminating. Olivia's slap, born of anger and desperation, shattered our illusions and forced us to confront the uncomfortable truths we had so carefully avoided. It was a catalyst, a painful but necessary jolt that led to an awakening, far more enlightening than any of us could have imagined.